This video is brought to you by Squarespace. Whether you need a domain, website, or online store, make it with Squarespace, why don't ya? What I like about the Monsterverse is that Warner Brothers have casually built this shared universe that people are genuinely excited about, whilst other people, like me, have been focusing on how Batman hated Superman, then in the next movie he loved Superman, and how does that even make any sense? He nearly stabbed him to death. That's a massive turnaround. But with the Monsterverse, currently it stands that there's been 2 films released, with 1 on the way, and then after that we got like a Godzilla vs. King Kong, and other stuff probably. But the thing is, these make money. Not crazy amounts of money, but they do well enough, and people like them. The Dark Universe, this is not. I mean, as of so far, it's managed to double the output of the Dark Universe with the total of 2 films, so that's pretty stellar stuff. Now, admittedly, I'm not the biggest Kong Godzilla fan, but I've always had some fascination with the creatures of this world, and I love a lot of the new inclusions, as well as how they've updated the classic monsters, without straying too far from what made them appealing in the first place. So let's now get into all the monsters from the King Kong Godzilla Monsterverse, including the upcoming... Sorry, I am very sick, and my voice is not good. Mitch is actually helping out with the editing because after this, I'm gonna lie down forever. I figure though we do these in the order of the film's release, starting with Godzilla 2014. This movie introduced us to the Muto. Muto stands for Massive Unidentified Terrestrial Organism, which is the name given to any discovered giant monsters as a placeholder. Now these are as ancient as Godzilla and parasitic in nature, feeding off radiation like he does. But whereas Godzilla draws his power from the Earth's core, they grab whatever's available. In the past, they've actually used corpses of Godzillosauruses. Real name. That's what the species of Godzilla is called. They also have slightly different abilities and appearances depending on their sex, the female being roughly double the size of the male, whilst males are capable of flight. They also appear to be impervious to military attacks, which largely go unnoticed, or they're just slightly bothered by them. Though they can be impaled to death, and it turns out that if you breathe nuclear fire right down their neck, the head will just come off. That's a fun fact. As far as defenses go, both of them can get super stabby, and they have the ability to emit an EMP blast, knocking out all the electronics within a large radius, the specific radius of which I am not able to specify. Now I remember thinking, why would an ancient parasite have the need for such a defense? Well, apparently this EMP can render Godzilla's nuclear breath inactive somehow. So there's that answer to that thing that I thought. Next up we got Godzilla. Now the modern version has been altered somewhat from the original, and not just because it's no longer a man in a very uncomfortable suit, but the basic look and abilities, they're mostly the same, but there's a few additions, like gills. So Godzilla is an ancient creature who retreated to the Earth's core when radiation levels on the planet took a real dive, and he remained dormant there until he was awakened in 1954 by a nuclear submarine. Godzilla seems very impervious to nuclear weapons, barely even acknowledging humans at all. That being said, he will go out of his way not to hurt them if it requires bare minimum effort, like swimming under a battleship. Now I say he, and I hate to bring gender into this because people get real pissy about it, but theories on whether Godzilla is male or female vary depending on which one you're talking about, with evidence to the contrary for he or she being male or female. It's been speculated that Godzilla produces asexually, which the 1998 version was confirmed to do, but others argue, well, if he's called King of the Monsters, then he must be a boy. Well, look, if we're going by that logic, in history there has been some precedent for female rulers to be referred to as kings. Also, king is just a word. You can call a baby girl Barry, but that doesn't make them male. Anyways, the point is, despite the Godzilla wiki classifying Godzilla as male, for this modern version at least, we just don't know. But please, feel free to argue endlessly in the comments. So Godzilla has claws and teeth and a tail, all used for the offensive, but its break glass in case of emergency move is atomic breath. We don't yet know its full capabilities, as it was severely weakened when it showed up in 2014, but in the upcoming movie, it does seem a bit brighter and more focused. Also, Godzilla is considered somewhat of a good guy, or girl, but really she, or he, is there to batter down any threats to the natural world. Overall though, Godzilla is largely indifferent to humans, or buildings, or bridges, or boats, or Aaron Taylor Johnson, like most of the world, am I right? Ha! Got him! Nah, he's alright. They should bring back Quicksilver. Nah, not really. He's not missed. Okay, Kong Skull Island. What do we got here? The Dicrosius. I mean, what do you want me to say? This is a deer. Skur buffalo. This one's a little more interesting. I quite like it, but what do you say? It's a big buffalo. It can apparently stay underwater for days, which is great. I like it, but who cares? Okay, here we bloody go. Mother Longlegs. This is basically a big old spider which has evolved to blend in with a bamboo forest in order to catch its prey. Not only can it skewer a man like you wouldn't believe, its legs are also poison-tipped to immobilize prey. On top of that, it can draw you in with its sticky tendrils to its crab-like pincers. Now, I'm Australian, in case my accent didn't give it away. And look, I don't like spiders. It's not a phobia of mine, but generally, I'm okay with them. But for this one, get the fuck out of here. It straight up sucks. And I don't mean that in the literal sense, but I also mean that in the literal sense, because it can drink a person dry through its legs like they're a milkshake. Alright, Psychovulture. Basically a big-assed crazy beaked bat. Uses echolocation, speed, and aggression to attack its prey. Also, it's called a Psychovulture because the puffer fish that they eat cause them to go straight up cray. Dangerous in large numbers, relatively easy to kill, unnecessarily mean. Next, the Maya squid is apparently the distant cousin of the giant Pacific octopus with a few significant alterations. Its jaw is designed to kind of rotate, creating a vortex to suck in unsuspecting prey, and it produces an ink that can superheat and boil its food as it attacks. Cuts down on meal prep. I get it, you get it. What's the next one? Spore mantis. Kind of like a big stick insect, so big it's more like a log insect. It lures its prey in with the promise of a good old sit on a log, then it's all, I'm a monster! We don't actually see it in the movie, but it can be very aggressive. This one though, it backs down as soon as it notices a much fiercer predator. But that predator, the main predator on Skull Island, is that of the Skull Walkers. Now, compared to a fully happy and healthy King Kong, they ain't much. The largest of which will stay underground until it's fairly confident that it can beat up a giant gorilla when it's weakened. They've got some of the characteristics of snakes and are unable to digest bones, vomiting them up. Kinda like what snakes do with eggshells. They're also great hunters, better than you even. What do you think of that? And they're also capable of working in packs or individually. But we should talk about Kong himself. Now, this particular one is only considered an adolescent of his species. His parents were killed shortly after his birth, making him the last of his kind. And it's said that comparatively, despite being decades old, his maturity is about the level of a 14-year-old human. So when he does face off against Godzilla in King Kong vs. Godzilla, their sizes should be much more comparable. He does, however, have a lot of disadvantages compared to Godzilla. You may already have noticed some of these. He can't shoot much nuclear fire, if any, and he's also not armored. He can also be injured quite easily by something like that of helicopter blades. But he does have a couple of things on Godzilla. For one, he's faster, and two, he might be more intelligent. He's able to wield weapons and strategize the way that Godzilla doesn't seem to be able to, or at least to the same extent. That being said, maybe it's just that Godzilla doesn't need to strategize like King Kong because he, or she, is much bigger and also a nuclear lizard. Hey, quick question, real quick, just now. Did you know with Squarespace, you can create a beautiful website with their all-in-one platform? Plus, there's never anything to install or patch or upgrade ever. And if you're thinking, man, I find it so easy to create a powerful online identity because each of their templates is a great kicking off point for a side project or a main job or creating an online store where Squarespace will allow me to manage product orders and inventory easily, but I just wish as a fallback there was award-winning 24/7 customer service in place to help me if I need it. Well, there is, and it's great and award-winning. But even then you might be thinking, man, I wish I could also get 10% off. Well, you're in for even more good news. Head over to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/Mr. Sunday Movies to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. That was an ad, by the way. You might not have actually noticed because it was seamlessly integrated into the video, but I'm just being transparent. I think that's important. But also use Squarespace if you want. It's good. All right, what do we got? Godzilla, King of Monsters. This upcoming movie will reintroduce some classic Monsterverse monsters and may even have a few surprises in store. So yeah, remember Mothra? Mothra's back with all the powers of a moth and slightly more powers. The version that was shot was apparently found in 2009 in the high-altitude jungles of the Yunnan province in China. Or at least a cocoon was, with something inside it that had a very rapid heartbeat. Mothra traditionally is a good guy, and this new version in the past has been viewed as a guardian angel or goddess. Okay, to me it still looks like a big moth but good on it. Mothra is also able to produce bioluminescent light from its wings, capable of blinding its enemies. The thing about Mothra is though, like a regular moth or butterfly, if you touch its wings even slightly, it won't be able to fly anymore and will eventually die. No, that's not true. Also, that's not true of regular moths or butterflies. That's actually a myth. But still, probably don't touch their wings too much. Maybe just leave them alone, yeah? Okay, here's trouble. Rodan. The new version was found in pyrostasis atop a volcano dubbed the Devil's Nest. So based on that name alone, when this thing gets out, is that going to be good news or bad news? Yes, that's right, it's very bad news. It's got an internal combustion system, meaning it can shoot fire, and its wings are so massive and devastating that it can level a city as it flies over. It is a thoroughly unlikable creature with a bad attitude. It's a big angry lizard bird, and frankly, I don't care for it. But last of all, we got King Ghidorah. So what, are there supposed to be two kings of monsters? This and Godzilla? Well, one of these, they've gotta go. And I hope it's Ghidorah, because he straight up sucks. Discovered frozen in ice in 2016, it's been labelled by Monarch, Monster Zero, and a living extinction event. Ancient humans knew him as the devil, and that, more often than not, draws negative connotations, which in this case is extremely accurate. Also, Ghidorah is bigger than Godzilla, can fly, conduct electrical currents, which can also be used to heat water vapor up to extreme levels and create localized storms. Ghidorah also shoots gravity beams. Okay, look, we need to stop here. How does this even work? Look, shooting fire and electricity, I get all that. But how do you shoot gravity? You know what? It doesn't matter. None of this is real. None of it makes sense. Let's keep going. Its wings can also create hurricane-like forces in flight, and each of its 3 heads possess different levels of cognitive function and probably independent thought. So it's thoroughly unpleasant and shoots gravity and lightning and makes storms, and it's smart, and also it has 3 heads. Now I'd love to go on and speculate about what other creatures could show up in this universe, but I feel like that's a video for another day. This is long enough, don't you think? But like I said, another day. You got a favorite Godzilla monster, however? If you do, feel free to mention it below, or maybe even start a civil discussion on Godzilla's gender. Emphasis on the civil. Also, if you want, subscribe and bell icon, because there's videos here every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday, including some Comic-Con trailer breakdowns, and also I have a podcast called The Weekly Planet, where every Monday we talk movies and comics and TV shows. It's a bit of a bloody fun ride, that show. That's linked below, along with all the other things. But thanks for watching this. I appreciate it. Take care.